What's up, everybody? It is Jordan here at Hive Mind Hobbies, and it is also December. Along with the Red Gobos Grotmas calendar thing they got going on, there should be a Balance Dataslate coming out pretty soon. So, along with the anticipation of a new Balance Dataslate coming out, here's me making a video about what I hope our bugs get this time around. All right, I'm not going to beat around the bush. I do not think that Tyranids are the worst army in the game, and obviously, I don't think that they are the best army in the game right now. I think we are sitting middle of the pack, if not a little bit below average, just below average. I wouldn't say that Tyranids are a bad army right now, but I would absolutely not say that they are a phenomenal competitive army. They're in an okay spot, which is kind of, I'm not going to lie, frustrating coming up to a balanced data slate. If we had all collectively decided that after the last data slate that we just did really bad at tournaments, there would actually be a better chance of us getting some buffs this time around than if everybody just did okay. Which is fine. I'm joking, obviously, but I really do feel like it has been quite some time since our bugs have, been shaken up, since there has been a competitive twist on how we can play Tyranids, and our units kind of seem stale right now. There's no real buffs since the last slate. Yes, the Psychophage got some cool new rules, and then yes, earlier on before that, we've got Subterranean Assault and some mild points changes. The army just really didn't change too much. It does feel stale, and as somebody who creates videos on Tyranids and plays a lot of Tyranids, I love playing them, but they're just very, very samey right now. In addition, our army rule seems kind of lackluster to all of the other armies out there. I personally love Shadow in the Warp, and I do like the benefit of Synapse, especially with the +1 to strength and that battle shock. It actually is pretty good. It just doesn't shine like some other army rules do. Here's my problem with Tyranids, right? I feel like in the entire Codex, almost all of our units are either strictly ranged or they are strictly melee. There's a couple units that can kind of function in that in-between zone, like Norn Emissaries. It's one of the reasons why I've been loving them so much. Maleceptors, maybe, even though their punching is not very strong at all. And then our new hyperadapted Raveners because of that Flamer. Besides those units, I really, truly feel like almost all of our units are just, okay, this bug shoots, this bug punches. And if your opponent can play around that and see which bug is shooting, which bug punches, oftentimes, I feel like it leads to a very predictable gameplay, and we are not able to make the most amount of efficiency through our points being spent in our list when compared to other armies who have very versatile units that activate in multiple phases. I'm talking about Space Marines, Eldar, of course, and even sisters. There's units in each of those factions that I really feel like can function in both the shooting and the charge phase, and you can get your money's worth through activating it multiple times with that unit. I don't know really what GW could do in this moment, and I don't really think that they would do anything to fix that part about Tyranids, but I think it is worth highlighting just to understand why Tyranids sometimes are lackluster in the competitive part of the game. In addition, our damage, I feel like, is also pretty lackluster. Our damage, I feel like, has been creeping up the entire edition, but definitely has not been creeping up in the way that Codex creep or other rules have been introduced. I think the best thing that Games Workshop has done for Tyranids in this edition is the introduction of the Hyperdaptives and the regular Raveners now. They have really high damage potential, and it's a pretty strong unit. It's one of my favorite units in the game just because of its versatility. That Flamer's pretty good, I promise. And because of how devastating they can be into almost any unit in the game. That being said, even with our free Rapid Ingress and Heroic Intervening Snake Boys, Tyranids are an incredibly fair army. There's not much in the Tyranid Codex when your opponent looks at it, they're like, oh man, that's really good. It's just like, oh yeah, the bug with the giant cannon on its back, yeah, that's I guess it's a pretty good gun, you know? And I definitely don't want Tyranids to feel like an unfair army. In fact, I would rather just all armies feel the way that Tyranids feel when they are put on the table. It's just another thing to highlight that in comparison, in the competitive scheme, I feel like Tyranids, when people get paired against them, they're like, oh, okay, cool. I can play against Tyranids, you know. And I also think that some points or some units in our army are just weirdly costed, and I feel like it's the problem with like Games Workshop is afraid of certain units getting too cheap, and then we spam them, and then it can be a tough situation for the meta. But I really am having a hard time finding out if we had like, you know, if we had 2 more Carnifexes in our list, would that be really so scary for the meta? Before we get to what I think would fix Tyranids forever, hire me, GW. I want to make sure that you are aware of a giveaway that we are doing with our incredible sponsors at secondhandgeek.com. You could win a Crusher Stampede Battleforce box for free. Yes, the same Battleforce box that I feel like is one of the best Battleforce boxes that has ever been available to Tyranids. You can own for free. And in fact, you can also make money off of it. All you need to do is you need to click the affiliate link down below, join Secondhand Geek through our Wednesday Night Warhammer affiliate link, and then post a Warhammer item for at least $15 for sale on the site. And then you'll be entered in the giveaway. Submissions will close December 15th, and our drawing will be the 17th on our live stream on Wednesday Night Warhammer. A couple of notes. 1, you do not have to sell that item. Just need to post it. And 2, unfortunately, this time around, this is only for Canadian and US residents only. Check it out. Just a little bit more anecdotal evidence to kind of get an understanding why I think Tyranids actually deserve and should have a little bit of lift in their rules this time around is if you take a look at Subterranean Assault. If you put the detachment rules for Subterranean Assault in a lot of other factions, it would be busted. It would be close to oppressive and pretty spooky, right? 6-inch deep strike and re-rolling 1s to hit all of the time. Those are 2 very strong rules. The fact that you can teleport around the battlefield and have some other really good supportive strats means that detachment, in my opinion, should just be banging, right? It should just be going out and just doing really, really well. Now, I will say it is one of the best detachments I think that Tyranids have. However, the datasheet rules we have and the units that we have access to, I don't think really make the full use out of that detachment. And maybe that is why Tyranids have that detachment rules. You know, it's just another example of, Tyranids can do these cool things, but when they do that cool thing, the army across the table is like, okay, cool, I can also do this and this and this. Subterranean Assault is super good, and I never want Tyranids to be in a point like they were in 9th edition where they're just steamrolling everybody. But the fact that we have a detachment as crazy and good as Subterranean Assault, and we're still kind of like lower middle of the pack and not really spooking anybody, I think that shows a lot for where Tyranids are at currently. Here's what I would like to see. First up, I would like to see 1 or 2 units upgraded either in durability or power. I think Tyranids, we've talked about this before in the video, I don't think they really punch as hard as a lot of units in the game. They just don't. I guess that's not their faction identity. However, there comes a point in time where, maybe we stretch their faction identity a little bit so that we can actually keep up with some of the really, really hard-hitting units in the rest of the game. In addition, with our durability, a lot of our units just don't have an invuln, and so whenever anybody points a melt-a-gun at them at any kind, we get really sad, and then we remove our models from the table pretty quickly. I feel like if we picked out a couple of units to just have a little bit of help within that area, I think that would be great. Like if the Harspecs in the Screamer Killer, if they had a rule that said unstoppable monster, this unit has a 5-up invuln, well, would that be okay? I think that would probably be fine. Another example is like if the Harspecs, if its Tentacled Maw had AP2 instead of AP1, I also think that would be fine. I don't think Harspexes are going to be dominating the meta just because they have AP2 on their small attacks. Same thing with Screamer Killer. What if the Screamer Killer, even if it stayed the same points and you just added Advance and Charge, or it has Twin Linked? It's got 4 arms. That's more twin linked than anything I've ever seen. I don't know. In addition, I think some of our less tuned monsters, some of the ones that I just mentioned, could be discounted a little bit. I think Screamer Killers, I think Harspexes, and I definitely think Carnifexes could go down 10, 15 points even. I really don't think that would, I don't even think that would put Tyranids in a place where maybe even the win rate would shift at all. Can you imagine if Carnifexes were at 100 points apiece? What is that? That might save you like 45 points or something in the long run. I don't really think that puts Tyranids in a spot where like, oh no, I got six Carnifexes looking at me. I just think buffs like that would help Tyranids have 1 or 2 more scoring pieces and allow for maybe a different style of play that we haven't been able to, just because our monsters are in this weirdly pointed area of our codex. All right, let's talk about Swarmlord. He is supposed to be our guy, right? He's supposed to be close to like our whatever we're gonna get as a Primarch. Maybe not, but he's our one like epic hero that everybody goes, oh, it's Swarmlord. He's supposed to be the guy that is made to do whatever the hive mind really needs to get done. I think his rules are a little bit lacking. What if Games Workshop leaned into that quote-unquote Primarch Tyranid identity and gave him a suite of options like Lionel Johnson or like Rabute Gilliman gets? That could be pretty sweet, and I would love to see it. I would be interested to see where they came up with. And if not that, let's bring him down in points. I think he's pretty strong. I think he's a really cool unit. His points are just a little bit too tough to convince myself to bring him in any more than maybe a sub-competitive list. I don't know. Now, I'll be honest with you, more important than what I think, what do you all think you would like to see for the Tyranids? Because I'm just one guy, and if you're watching this, I'm hoping more than one person watches this. I'm interested to hear your opinions and your suggestions as to what you would do to the Tyranid Codex to make it more comparable with the rest of the competitive field. What units specifically do you think need to be changed? How would you change them? And do you feel like Tyranids are stale right now? Do you feel like Tyranids are in a little bit of a rut and you've just kind of figured out what you want to do with them, or maybe you've put them to the shelf for a little bit because they just haven't had any shakeups in quite some time? Don't forget to subscribe, of course. We just passed 2,500 subscribers, so thank you so much for the support. And do yourself a favor, click that affiliate link below, check out that giveaway, and get yourself a Crusher Stampede box for free. All right, everybody, that is it for today's video, talking all about the Balance Dataslate. I do love this season of anticipation of what's coming out in the Dropmas calendar. When is the Balance Dataslate coming out? What units am I going to take off the shelf? And maybe they're really busted now. Who knows? I'm excited to see the results, and don't worry, I will absolutely be making a video as soon as I can when the slate comes out. So be on the lookout for that. Subscribe if you haven't already, and click that like button for me. All right, everybody, I'll see you next time. Bye.